go ahead and get started. My name is Danielle Coe. I'm the CEO and founder of Black Women in Clinical Research. The mission of Black Women in Clinical Research is to educate, empower, support, and help Black women thrive in the clinical research industry. Today, we have Veeva Systems to talk about putting the speed, efficiency, and compliance in clinical trials. So we have Bree Burks, and I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I am joining you from Nashville. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to hopefully share something that is helpful for you guys today. And I am a nurse by background. Probably like most of you sort of fell into clinical trials and it wasn't a path that I had carved out for myself. And my experience prior to working at Veeva and focusing on technology is really within academic medical centers here in the US, working in the University of Florida, University of Colorado, Denver, and then most recently, I was responsible for a central clinical trials office at Vanderbilt before coming to Veeva. And so that's kind of been my lens. So one of the things I kind of asked Danielle about was I know that, which I love this, there's representation here across sites and across CROs and sponsors. So I'm going to kind of speak to all of those perspectives today as I talk about Veeva and kind of what we're doing for the industry. And I'm really excited to get started. So Danielle, I don't know if you want me to just kind of jump in or if you have any other announcements or items you want to cover, just let me know.
Go jump in, feel free.
All right. So this is fun. I mean, this is a small group, so I want to make sure I went through all this. You guys feel like you can unmute at any time. I've got the chat open to make sure too that I'm watching that and just staying on top of questions you guys have, but feel free to jump in at any point. And this is going to be our agenda. So we're going to talk about Veeva, who we are as a company. Maybe you've heard of us, maybe you've used some of our technology, maybe you love us, maybe you're joining the call because you want to share some opportunities for improvement, which I'm happy to hear that as well. And we're going to talk about the current vision that we have as a company, and then what I would say our differentiators are. And then we're going to jump into how we're partnering with sites specifically. Chrisley Medical School site, all right, CRO, oh yeah, this is great. Thanks for asking that, Danielle. And then I will certainly open up for Q&A at the end, and we can get into whatever topics you guys have in mind, but feel free to jump in throughout. Thanks, Danielle. All right, so Veeva, if you give us a Google, you'll probably see a lot about growth. And we were founded in 2007. We are a public company. And we've got over 4,000 employees and we're global. We're based out of the San Fran area, but we've got customers all over the globe and over 165 countries. So it's possible, certainly, that you've touched our technology, especially if you're on the CRO or sponsor side. And something that we did that's pretty unique at the beginning of this year is we transitioned into a public benefit corporation, which I loved. That was so cool. And really, I feel like we've operated like this all along, but this was a way for us legally to really claim for the industry that we're going to be here long term and that our vision is beyond just profits alone, that we're really focused on society overall, our employees, our customers, and their success, as well as our shareholders. Meaning that we need to think about the very, very big picture of human health and how we're going to play a part in that. So you may know, and I see that already, some people are working in Veeva day to day. And you may know that we've got a lot of customers on the sponsor side of the world, on the CRO side of the world. And we're currently in use by 47 of the top 50 pharmaceutical companies today that are global. We've got over 1,100 customers, which is great. And you may be saying, great, that's awesome. But this is really the big pivot and why I joined Veeva, is to think about the fact that if we're really going to optimize and transform the way that trials are run, we've got to come together better. And I'm going to talk a lot about that in the presentation and how we're doing that. But today we now have the fastest site growing technology on the market, which we're really, really excited about. Sightvault. So if you're on the site side of the world, you might have touched Sightvault. You might have also monitored a site if you're a CRA that's using Sightvault. But we now have Sightvault customers in over 70 countries and 3,500 sites on a lot of the big sites. So you might be saying, okay, that's great, you know, lots of stats on customers, but our real vision here is to provide an operating system for the end-to-end development of new products for human health. You guys know that's not a small task. There are a lot of elements that go into the R&D process. There are a lot of stakeholders that are involved in the R&D process, and we want to provide the operating system for all of that. So at the highest level, this is what we are trying to do as a company. We also know that the industry is ripe for change right now and needs it. You guys, like I do, probably get emails every single day about decentralized trials, virtual trials. It's everywhere. So 28% ran decentralized trials prior to COVID, and 87% either are currently doing them or plan to be part of a decentralized trial within the next year. But just about everybody in the industry believes that they will be part of a decentralized trial within the next 2 years. So we all know that our industry is shifting, it's changing, and we are thinking about how do we help move the industry forward from a technology perspective. And so we have a vision at Veeva for digital trials, not necessarily decentralized. We want that to be able to fit into the model, but we want to be able to fit all types of trials into our model at Veeva with the focus of patient centricity and getting rid of paper. Paper is a nightmare for all of us. It's why we really don't have a way to truly analyze across the spectrum of an entire study, what's going on at all the sites, what's going on with all the patients. How do we really get that visibility when we're still operating on paper? And so many sites are still operating on paper today. And when you think outside of the US, it's even more the standard. And we believe that these things can come together, and by 2025, they can reduce the cost associated with the trial by 25% and the timeline. And so this is really that broader vision that we're going after as a company now. And I'm going to talk, when we start describing some of the more nuts and bolts of how our technology works, about what the heck is digital. It's not decentralized. It really means that the way that we exchange information and the way that processes run are not only paperless and electronic, but that they're synchronized, that we can look at something and not just create electronic paper, but that we can actually break down the components of the process and make the transactions more seamless and improve the process through actually going digital. We've seen this in healthcare. Healthcare in general is definitely further along than we are here with clinical trials. And many of you probably know that. But when you think about electronic health records first getting introduced, it was really just like an electronic filing system of human health data. But now we see that it's much more digital, where you can do an analysis, you can slice into that, there's more structure, and you can really understand cohorts and types of patients experiencing different things that are within your medical record. We can now make decision-making, software to help with diagnoses. And there's a lot more we can do as we put structure and process into those electronic systems for medical records. And we are doing the same for clinical trials. So this is a great foundation to kind of set the stage for everything else we have going on here. So what does that mean? We are building a digital trials platform, and we believe the right way to do that is to let everybody work on their own purpose-built technology that they can standardize on, and we can serve as the broker in the middle to exchange information across them and to exchange documents and to automate processes. So in our industry, we don't have an issue of, well, can I find a system or a solution that will allow me to do A, B, and C? I think we're pretty saturated with technology providers, and there's probably a solution to do whatever it is you're needing to get done. The problem is that solution is probably disconnected from other technologies you use, and you may be only using that system for one trial. And if you're a site, you may be only accessing that system for one sponsor, one trial, maybe a subset of your trials, but it's really, really hard to standardize for sites especially. And when I think of CRAs using their own internal systems, using sometimes sponsor mandated systems, logging into different site systems, we have a complete freaking mess. And I think you guys all know that. I feel like a theme that I hear a lot is people in our industry have to be really resilient to do this work. We're here because we want to take care of patients. We're here because we want to improve human health. And we spend so much of our day doing manual administrative junk, right? That doesn't really feel innovative. And we're trying to innovate healthcare. It's a very difficult thing to juggle and to accept the way that we work right now. So many of us, especially sites that are still on paper. And so we want to create and are creating this digital trials platform. And I'm going to go into how we're actually doing this now. So the way we're powering this platform, and I want to focus on what we're doing that's different, because at least for me, prior to only focusing on Veeva and our technology, it was really hard to keep straight all of these different systems and what was really behind why a lot of technology companies make their decisions. So I want to make sure you guys leave with a clear understanding of what we're doing that's different. So we are focusing on how to power studies end to end. Again, trying to be the operating system to bring new products to market. So that's different. We don't have just a sliver focus where working with us means you're always going to have to connect us to other systems. We certainly will connect, but we really want to be broad. We also are very, very focused on patient centricity, and I'm going to outline what does that mean? How do you make technology that's patient centric? We've started with making sponsor technology. I bet those of you that said you use Veeva every day, you're on the sponsor CRO side of the world, and we want to drive connections there because we have such a great market share. And the power of our technology, the foundation and the way that we build technology as a company is unique. So I'm going to dip into all of these things, and then I'm going to talk after this about what we're specifically doing for sites, and especially if you're a CRA, how you can leverage that. All right, enabling studies end to end. So 81% of drugs that are approved on the market today have touched one of our applications at some point in that process, or even in the commercialized process when they go through commercialization. That's pretty unique. So you can kind of see here, I've condensed, we've got a lot of applications. I have a slide where I'm going to show you the history, like a timeline of how we've developed applications, just to kind of give you an idea of how we really do want to move with speed to meet this big goal of connecting the industry. So we've got suites of applications here, from quality to regulatory to clinical operations to safety to the commercial cloud, and looking at products once they are available on the market. And our products are working together. So it can be really, really hard. And something that we are trying to improve on still is how to share information and the exchange of information across all of these different milestones, from R&D over into a commercialized product. How do we speed up access to a product that gets market approval? using technology to do that. Because if you're on the sponsor side of the world, you know there's a pretty big divide in that part of your business. So specifically in our clinical operations suite, where I am assuming those of you that are in this technology day to day and you're not a site, you're probably touching one of these applications. Here are the main things that we offer. We've got a clinical data management system. So this is like an EDC+++, essentially. It's newer. The focus that we've had is on being able to support adaptive trials, not, having to have different databases that are all active at once when you've got sites working on different versions of a protocol, having to do massive data migrations when you amend your case report forms because of a protocol amendment, but being able to have a truly agile data management system that also has what we call a workbench, where you can pull in and look across what is the date of birth for this patient coming in from what was entered in the EDC, but also from the randomization technology, also from maybe some self-reported, patient-reported outcomes that the patient gave. Is all of that aligning in a single place to query that information for anyone that does data, and a way to then statistically analyze that, and then a way to use what we have in our clinical database product, which is a warehouse connecting studies and structuring what you're getting across your studies. So you can do analysis of all of that hard work that you've done to collect data across your studies in one place. So we're really thinking about how to enable modern data management with that technology. And then on the clinical operations side of our CRO and sponsor business, we've got Study Startup as a newer application. It's really cool. You can see status of startup across all of your sites. We also have the TMF, which is basically our flagship product. And I'm going to talk about what we've done, knowing that we've got the majority of clinical trials today that are truly sponsored trials and not investigator-initiated trials, operating on our trial master file product. How are we using that to the advantage of the industry? And then a CTMS system for CROs and sponsors, and a payment system. So here's kind of the offerings that we have, just to show you that we're really focused on the full end-to-end safety data. I didn't put safety up here, but we've got safety, quality, regulatory, really thinking again about that whole end-to-end process. And when you think about technology that's truly patient-centric, I feel like I hear this a lot as well right now. Decentralized trials, patient-centric trials, and I will say this could be my own unique experience, but a lot of times I participate and listen to people talk about how they're being patient-centric, and I don't know that I really feel like I'm getting the details that I want to get. So I want to kind of give you guys the details today of how are we truly trying to be patient-centric. So we have announced last year, at the end of last year, My Veeva for Patients, which is an application just for patients, powering that digital platform that we're connecting everybody on. And this is their technology that they have on their own desktop or mobile. And we really want to transform patient engagement for sites. So we as a company have taken a stance that patients get access to our application because of a relationship with a site PI that invites them. So we have not cut sites out of the process of our technology. That's been foundational to the way that we have built our patient-centric technology with My Veeva. And you see here that I've got everything kind of going back and forth with Sightvault and with My Veeva. And I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to use an example of e-consent, which we have available today, to really outline for you the way that this stuff works. So sites, we believe, should work in their own system. And when they do something like consent a patient, they should send it from one central system. When they do things like launch a virtual visit in the future on our technology, they would launch it through Sightvault. They will complete their e-source in Sightvault. They are using one application. Patients are using MyVeeva. They're using one application to do everything. And, you know, my best example of this with my nursing background is, or even if you guys ever engage electronically with your healthcare providers, I would not be super jazzed as a patient, and I probably wouldn't use any kind of electronic portals with my healthcare providers if I had to log into one system to message them, one system to consent for something, one system to pull down my labs, one system to schedule something. And if I didn't really trust that system was accurate and was truly synchronized with what my healthcare team was doing in their day-to-day. So patient portals outside of clinical trials, I feel like most of them have really gotten that right. If you've ever used one, you usually can go in, you have one login, it's working across all of the physicians that are synced with that practice or that hospital, and you're doing it all there in one login. And it doesn't matter if you navigate over and you get a different diagnosis, or you go into a different service, you see a different physician, all of your stuff is synchronized. And you know it's right. We do not do that to clinical trial patients. So when when participants are on a clinical trial, they experience all kinds of disconnected technology today getting thrown at them. And they very rarely utilize that same technology moving forward. I was just talking to a family that we have that goes to my church, which is kind of funny. And they enrolled both of their kids in the Pfizer vaccine study. And they were just saying, you know, they've done quite a bit of clinical trials. They think it's really cool. They've probably done 6 or 7. And they were just talking to me about all the different types of apps that they have. And they were showing me on their phone all the different apps. And it was like, this is crazy. I mean, what a disconnected experience for them. So we do not want to do that to them. We really want to give them a much more seamless and connected experience as patients participating in clinical trials. And we want everything that they're doing and getting sent from the site, we want it to be synchronized in with the site system. So this is how we're building the Sightvault and the MyVeeva connection. Let me give you an example. So to go back to like concrete examples, okay, that's great in concept and it sounds great. How does it work? So let's look at the consenting process today. As you guys know, first you have to develop the template, you have to get it approved, and there is a back and forth that goes on between the sponsor, CRO, and the site, often in email. Sometimes the site forgets to show that updated local version of the consent that they've made, and they get IRB approval, and the sponsor, CRO, doesn't like their changes. And it's really hard to track this process, all of the different versions that could go on from the template that's provided to the site and from what they ultimately get approved. Nightmare. Email, and it's just a nightmare. So once it is approved, right, the IRB then has usually a different system that the approved document is stored in. So it's really challenging to say, well, what did the IRB approve? What is the site actually using? And what did we actually get FDA approved or send over to them if we're a sponsor or CRO? So you're just constantly trying to connect all of the dots. Then the patient comes in and they get a super fancy paper copy of all of this, right? And it's stored somewhere at the site. And dear God, if it's lost, it's a total nightmare. And it's really hard to know, did the patient sign the right version? Did they provide the date? You know, it's really, really hard to get access to that. And then God forbid an amendment happens to the consent and you have to start it all over, and the site has to figure out what patients need to be reconsented, what patients are still on study, and it's just manual, and it's just error prone. And then the poor monitor comes in and has to retrace all this, right? If you're the CRA, you're retracing all of this. So I don't know if you guys are, if you guys have experienced any of this. I certainly did on the site side, and it's a nightmare. So how are we doing it in our technology? So How we're doing it in our technology for connected studies is that the sponsor or CRO can actually send the template electronically to the site. So whatever you're managing in your TMF, you're able to release it, and it actually lands in Sightvault as a structured consent document. Sightvault knows what study it's for, and they know it's a consent. So the technology is smart. When the site then makes adjustments, part of the process is the review happens right there in the Veeva technology. You can use our version compare feature. You can have full confidence of what they've gotten approved. And if they've given you access to their Sightvault, you can go in there and pull it and see it right away. They launch to their patients the approved consent once they have that done, and they can only launch to their patients from Sightvault the most current approved version. So we're trying to take the guesswork out of it. The IRB actually can come right into Sightvault. We have a great IRB experience and approve it right there in the system. So the patient then gets a notification that it's time for them to consent in their application. And when they provide their signature, it automatically files in their MyVeeva application. So now they've got access to it forever. And I can't imagine being a patient on an oncology trial and looking at a paper consent telling me when my visits are going to be, what investigational stuff is going to happen to me, the risks of all of this stuff. And I'm supposed to carry that around for years on a piece of paper. It's crazy. So the site then gets a notification, hey, the patient signed, you sign. When the site signs, it's smart. So if you use our TMF, you know this. The document, once it's fully executed by the site and the patient, it automatically files in a binder for the site. So when you then come back to monitor, every e-consent that's done in Veeva technology for your sites is in the same exact place. It's named the same, it's in the same file. You know that only the most approved version of that consent was able to be sent out. And then you actually can get a ping you can get metrics and tracking of consented patients tracked against what you are expecting to recruit if you have any of our clinical technology. So we're really trying to make this work. This is an example of a digital feature. We're really trying to improve the way the work gets done and not just look at how to replicate that awful paper process I just showed you. We're thinking about how to truly transform it. And this is a great way then for monitors to come across and look at all of this. All right. Thanks, Danielle.
Hey, Bree.
Yeah.
We have a question from Beth
Sure.
Butler. She said, how do you handle different IRBs? Do they get access to Veeva as well?
They do. They do get access to Veeva as well. And you're right that, IRBs have to be able to get on board with e-consent, but we're seeing that happen after COVID. Thank goodness, more and more. But yes, they absolutely have a login, but they also see what you're seeing on my screen. It's not exactly this, but they actually have a place where not only can they go into the document and annotate and provide comments and go through an approval process in Sightvault if they choose to do that, but they also can get a view to the true patient experience of the e-consent. And the e-consent that we have is truly digital, meaning it tracks that patients actually go through every part of the document and don't miss something, or it doesn't allow them to sign. It has a really nice table of contents. You can have it be nothing but text like what you see here, but you also could embed videos in it if you choose, or pictures or links. And then a really great thing is you can embed data into it. So let's say you need to track things like, is that patient, willing to participate in other similar research in the future? What are they willing to let their what about their specimens? What are they willing to do with the specimens, and what types of analysis are they okay with? And can their specimens be used for future research? All that data we can capture and then report out on from our consent. So it is truly digital and not just a PDF. Have we had pushbacks from IRBs? Yeah, we have some, but ultimately we worked with them to get them on board. We haven't had an IRB yet that we haven't gotten on board, and we really try to position this is better for patients. They need to get off a freaking paper. This is a nightmare. What if you want to show them videos so that they can really understand the way that this investigational compound is going to work? You know, how do we allow them to, again, in my Veeva, over time, it's just e-consent today. By the end of this year, sites will be able to send any kind of document to patients, parking directions, if they need to have some sort of a, informational card on whatever device that they might have received from a trial. So it's really about investing in the broader vision of being more patient-centric with the way that we do research. And so we have had to push them, but to date, we have had no IRBs refuse this that we've worked with. And we did the work to really get the big IRBs on board first. We've worked closely with WCG and Advara. We've gotten approvals there. We've worked with a lot of the big top academic medical centers. Hopkins gave us a lot of feedback on this, Vanderbilt, Penn. So we've tried to sort of blaze the trail and prime them to see this. Great question. So I won't go into too much more detail here, but this is just an example of how we're trying to be patient-centric. And e-consent is really just the start of that for us. Have these packages? Yes. I won't say who yet, but there's several large, some of the top 5 CROs that have purchased this technology, and we don't expect them to be enabled on this until probably sometime towards the middle or end of next year. But you're going to see this. Great question. So what about the connectivity? So connecting the industry, connecting sites to sponsors. This is a huge part of the way we're trying to power digital trials. We've got a lot of sponsors on our technology. We want to now take those 3,500 sites and seamlessly enable connections. People talk about integrations all the time in our industry, and there's no question in my mind that we need more standards to figure out how to work better together and more seamlessly share things across systems. And we're definitely open to that at Veeva. But we also have a really unique opportunity because we have thousands of sites and hundreds of sponsors and CROs on our technology. So we don't need to have middleware in the middle connecting them. We've got a really cool way to seamlessly do the connection. And I want to talk you guys through this part of what we're doing for digital trials. So most of you probably know that the trial master file, more than 60% of the documents in it come from the site files, come from the investigator site file. So as you think about that, there are so many transactions now going back and forth to get that trial master file complete. And many of you are probably in the throes of that. So I am preaching to the choir. But if you look at something like a phase 3 trial, and this is just an estimate, 200 sites, 3 years, 5 minutes per transaction, which I'm sure many of the transactions are longer than that if you're talking about emails. Here are just some pretty scary numbers about how many documents you're talking about, how much time you're talking about for a study like this, just to exchange. So we're not talking about the content in the document, the site figuring out how to actually fill out the 1572, get it signed, all of that stuff. We're talking about just getting the 1572 over and filed into the TMF. And I know a lot of ways that this works today is sites might log into a TMF and they may file on behalf of the sponsor and use it like a portal. A lot of this happens through email today. You know, maybe you have a specific email address that you always copy for your study. And this also gets replicated, this exchange nightmare, through safety letters, through payment letters and distribution, and then that nasty end of study media, that massive package of documents you have to get back to your site. So now that we're thinking about the fact that we've got a document management system for sites, a document management system for sponsors, this seems like something that we can solve pretty immediately. And COVID made it worse. So I think people are throwing technology at all of the problems. And remember how I said that, you know, the problem is not the lack of having a system that can do A, B, or C. There's systems out there that do more things than I've ever even imagined we needed. but there's just so many of them and they don't talk. And variation is the enemy of quality. So when you have to work in a varied way all day long, your quality goes down because you can't standardize and you can't optimize. And so all of these additional systems are creating burnout at sites for sure. I don't know how many of you are seeing that. Numbers of trials are up, site staff are down to do the trials. Sites are frustrated, they're bleeding people. We hear that all the time. Trials are taking longer. We've got all this great technology, but it's not speeding things up and it's not decreasing costs. And patients are struggling to be able to access trials, find them, participate, engage. It's a nightmare. So again, what can we do? So we believe that today, per clinicaltrials.gov data, 60% of industry-sponsored studies run on our trial master file. That's a lot. That's enough to say, okay, it wouldn't be a one-off if we make these connections. So we have built and released Site Connect to power what we call connected studies. And we have early adopters on it today. And this has been announced, so I can share this. Bayer is our first early adopter, and we're learning from them. We've got 13 other major CROs and global pharma companies and some small biotechs and even device companies, med techs that have purchased this. It might take you guys a year or two to really see this in action, but I think it's coming. And this is an automated exchange from the site technology to the sponsor technology. So it is working today. We have transacted over 100,000 documents on this for our early adopters, which is cool. And I'll give you a quick example. So for study documents, when you're in the trial master file, you can send them through straight to sites on Sightvault. You can send them a package of as many documents as you want. You can send the package to all your sites, a handful of your sites, sites only in certain countries. And when you send the package, you actually see if the site's opened it, if they've responded. The site then, when it gets the package, they can accept or reject the documents with one click. They can accept the whole package. And when they accept it, it auto files in their investigator site file as the structured classified document. So this should take the place of email with attachments where you then have to pull it out, save it on your local computer in some sort of shared drive, file it, right? This is essentially taking away reconciliation. If you've got it classified in your TMF correctly, it's going to flow over with that classification. We've mapped it to Sightvault. We've got the only site technology on the market today that has a structured reference model. So we are mapping for every site on our product. We have a mapping of their regulatory documents to your regulatory documents if you're a sponsor, CRO on our TMF. And we are automating that exchange. You can request documents back and forth. And as a site, if you see the opportunity, like the sponsor saying, I want to request these documents, we pre-populate, hey, here's your most current version of that investigator agreement that's been signed. Here's your most current version of the 1572. And we suggest it because we know exactly where that document is in the Sightvault system and which study it belongs to, which is pretty cool. So we are trying to hit at that nasty manual transactions that are going on right now to try to really improve relationships of sponsors and sites and allow you guys to connect better on things that really matter, your patients, the science of the study, and stop asking for stuff constantly. Same thing with safety letters. We have an auto distribution there for payments and of the end of study media, where we use that mapping to auto classify with safety letters. The sites can acknowledge them very quickly, and then they can just file right there where they need to go, which is pretty cool. So the benefits of these connected studies, which is pretty neat, is the systems know who works on what. You've got cross coverage now, which is pretty cool. If somebody's out on leave, they're out for the day, whatever, the backup coordinator, another CRA can get in there, see what's being requested, do the work. And truly, as long as the document is classified appropriately in either the site or the sponsor system, when it flows over, it auto-files. It auto-files in the right structure. We also automate people documents. So anything on site staff, like a license, CV, any of that, when a site agrees to connect on the study, all of the people documents just flow over and file into the TMF. You don't even have to request them. And every time they're up versioned, if that person's still on the study, they auto file over. And then you can communicate in the system. You can highlight things on documents. You can go back and forth and stage. You can reject things. You can approve things. We want to get you out of email. And we've heard an outcry for helping with all the safety letter stuff. So we're helping there. All right, last point. Let's talk about the power of Vault. So we like to pride ourselves on Vault. You use Veeva. We say we're unified and best of breed. And that means that all of the Vault technology that we have built for the clinical world, these are just our clinical applications. It's all built in a unified and connected way. We do not purchase technology and then offer you the suite of products on the shelf, and then you start using it and it doesn't actually work together. It's all made with the mindset of how do these applications work together? How do we share and exchange information on these applications? So the more applications you work with at Veeva, the better your exchange can become. And now we're really focused on not just helping CROs and sponsors operate better internally, but also change the way that they engage with sites and change the way also that sites are able to engage with their patients. And we've delivered a lot of applications and we're really moving at speed on this whole digital trials thing. Vault also is data, documents, workflows. So you might know if you go into something like Excel, you're not really gonna be able to put documents in it, right? I mean, that one's a super obvious one. But if you use other products like Salesforce or you use Box, you probably know, if you're using Box for something like remote monitoring right now, all the communication on that is external to Box. It's gonna be in emails because Box is for documents. And if you go into something like Salesforce and you're trying to manage a bunch of documents, contracts, things like that, it's really bad. So we've tried to think about all of it in all of our applications. How do you communicate? How do you have actions taken on things? How do you support data and how do you support documents and connect everything together? And that's what we think of when we think about Veeva Vault that we've made here in-house. And from an applications perspective, again, Vault is the foundation of sites working on Sightvault, patients engaging with sites through MyVeeva and collecting all of the study related information they need over time, even being able to do things like launch a visit or message a site over time through MyVeeva. And then any sponsors that are using or CROs, any of our clinical suite applications can then choose to purchase the opportunity to connect with their sites and exchange with their sites this way. For sites, this is a really novel thing. Site technology is further behind and they more so think about document management like a box system, like an e-binder, and we're really educating them on if we do what some sites were initially asking us to do, let you just set up all of your stuff, all of your own way. This is actually bad for you. It'll never be able to auto flow over to your sponsor. You're gonna have to manage and set up integrations for that. You're going to have one person doing something one way, one person doing something the other way. And when you want to pull information that's data driven, like turnaround times on processing your documents, you can't do it. So we're really working to try to be that digital partner for sites and elevate the way that they operate so that they can try and improve and optimize their business. You can't optimize your business if you're not even sure where the bottlenecks are. And you can't identify bottlenecks in something that's just a filing system that's electronic. So we're really working on that for sites. And these are the things we have in Sightvault today: full e-regulatory or an ISF for sites. They can also choose to use any of these pieces today: ways to track patient status, source, e-consent, and we have a fully digital delegation log, which is really cool. where sites can do things like help with managing their resources and understand what people can even do phlebotomy. Am I trying to add somebody without the credentialing for that to a study? I don't want to get dinged for that. And really put delegation and responsibilities, tie that into training and tie that into credentialing people have. All right, last 2 slides here. And if you are looking for a remote monitoring solution, I would love to talk to you guys about that offline if you need help. Sightvault is a great solution for that. And the 3,500 sites that we have on Sightvault, I should share, it's free. They're not paying a cent for it. There's nothing that they can do in the technology that would generate a charge for them. 0. They can use it for investigator-initiated trials. They can use it for 1 study. They can use it for 1,000 studies. And we host their documents in there for 25 years. What's cool is for those of you that are already logging into Veeva, you can use your same login to get into the site system. And it's Vault. So you're going to see your library, you're going to see your e-binders, you're going to see dashboards, all the things that you use in your TMF or whatever other applications you use, you're going to see it in Sightvault. You can annotate on there. You can go through the whole process of remote monitoring, not just accessing a site's document, but staging it, returning it back to the site to say this doesn't match the EDC, having conversations on the documents, and then even understanding and being able to dashboard and report what source documents have AEs AE related information, protocol related information. It's really cool. This has been something that's gotten us a lot more adoption of Sightvault, just trying to support the remote monitoring process. And the last thing I'll say is you're actually looking at a site's certified copies in most cases of their source. So it really elevates the type of remote monitoring that you're able to do if you're doing like remote SDV, because you're looking at those certified copies, which is pretty cool. So we want to, this is another example of a fully digital feature that is bringing together the CRA and site experience, and we're just trying to make it better for everybody. So hopefully after this talk, when you think of Veeva, maybe you've never thought about us before until today, or maybe you think about things in our technology that you wish were improved, which I'd also love to hear that. But this is where we're heading. We're really heading towards supporting an ecosystem that helps everyone connect and work better together and truly standardize on their own technology. And this is the vision. So thank you guys so much. I know that was a lot of information. I hope at least some of it was helpful for you and your particular needs and what you're doing in your day-to-day.
Absolutely. This was so helpful, Bree. So
good.
We do have a question. Let me see. From Nicole. She's saying, does the system have the capacity to perform IRT, IWRS capabilities?
We just launched that in our EDC system, our CDMS system, that clinical data management system. So yes, we just released the capabilities to do that in that particular technology. Great question.
Okay, yeah, she said to include IP accountability and reconciliation.
We don't have that yet. We don't have that yet.
Are you guys, what about site payments? Is that something you guys might?
We have a payments technology today, and you're able to set it up and you're able to link it to what's activities that are happening in your sites, visits that are happening. It works basically in conjunction with our CTMS. So if you have our CTMS, where you're of course tracking all those milestones for your sites, you can add on the payments module. So we do have that. Now, over time, we want to feed that from Sightvault. We just started getting actual patient visits in Sightvault, so we can have that granular data that the sites actually operate on to schedule their patients and do their visits, and have that synchronized with our payment system so that everybody's is working off of the same information coming straight from the sites. That's future though. We're not quite there yet. That's the problem, is there's just so much to build. We've built so much. If you look at that slide if you think about that slide, that timeline slide, but there's still so much to build. the work that we all do is very, very complex.
Yes, I think what you guys have done so far is amazing. When I was at the site, everything was paper. And so, like you said, I had to scan in documents. And then a lot of times, because it was in my binder, then, if the CRO or the monitor needed the documents, then I would have to either go back into the binder and scan it to them. So I definitely can relate to the emails and going back and forth. Let's see. Did anyone have any more questions for Bree?
Hi, this is Gwen. I don't have a question, just a comment. I think it was on the Veeva website. It had a demo of the connection between CTMS and the TMF vault. And I love that connection. I mean, we're using a different CTMS at my company than we are the ETMF. And it would be so nice if we had the two of them together. It would be so much easier, but I don't know if that's in our plans or not. But I just appreciated that connection was so seamless. I was impressed.
Well, good. Thank you. And that is, really, we're all in this. If you're looking at it from a technology perspective, and the way we have to look at it at Veeva is we're playing the long game. It's hard to rip out and replace systems. These systems are critical. They hold so much information, so many documents. It's hard to change and to orient people to new things. People are burned out on technology. So, we know that we're in this for the long game. And a lot of on the CRO and sponsor side, people will start with the TMF and then over time adopt more. And we do right now have about 60% of our sponsor and CRO customers now have more than one application. So that's good. So we're seeing it happen. We're seeing people transition over to doing more and to taking advantage of that unified approach that we've taken across all of these applications. So maybe it will come for you soon.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Gwendolyn, put a little bug in their ear, like, hey, I went to
it may be already in discussions and I'm just not aware of it.
I was like, hey, I went to a Black Women in Clinical Research event and Veeva was there. Right. And let me tell you what we can do also.
Yes, I can do that.
And I'm happy to share any of these slides with you too, Danielle, if you want to distribute them. I mean, I know probably the last thing you guys need is another email with another attachment, but if you want them, I'm happy to send them.
Oh, that would be great. Yes.
Hello, Bree. I have a question. I'm specifically interested in the remote monitoring capability.
Yes.
Veeva Vault, because I've heard a lot about it.
Good.
Well, because I know I worked at I've been to a couple of sites that actually used it during COVID, and I worked for a CRO that was trying to adopt it. So my question is, what are some of the obstacles or the feedback have you gotten from the CRO on the CRO side to them using you all's remote monitoring module? Because as a CRA, from my perspective, it seemed like it was taking a little bit too long for them to implement that tool for sites to use.
Yeah.
We never did get any feedback about where, the status. I just remember sitting in some training for it and how to use it. And then, I guess what was 2021? We still haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So here is the challenge for sites, full transparency. They got to scan their documents in. So there's no magic wand or nothing we can create that says, here's a massive paper binder. Let me just give you 5 quick seconds and you transition that paper into a system. So what we've done is we have gone through and picked apart that process with a fine-tooth comb to try to make it as easy as we can. So the technology today, they can take a binder, They can scan it in. We don't want them to save. It's going to come in as probably multiple emails and multiple attachments. They don't have to save it on their desktop. They can drag it from the attachment out of that email straight into Sightvault. And they can fill out the metadata, like the information with the document and which type of document it is, all in one screen. So they can hover over, see the document and say, okay, it's this study. Okay, it's a consent. Okay, it's this study. It's a da, 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 da. But they have to do that.
Okay,
and it
so
takes some time.
Yeah. So like when I upload a document into the ETMF,
Yes.
so yeah, because I was just
it's better. I'm going to tell you one thing. It's better than the TMF loader. Like the TMF where you put documents in is about to adopt what we just created for sites in Sightvault, because it's for mass upload of different document types. It's better. But it's, and we have the TMF bot now. I didn't even share that, but that's so cool. We've classified over 100,000 documents with the TMF bot right now, which is like, it scrapes the document using artificial intelligence and it auto classifies it for you. Now it doesn't do all the metadata, like all the information yet, but we're working on that. That'll be the next phase. So I know I'm giving you a lot more information maybe than you need, but the problem is getting the documents from paper into the system is hard. It's better than a Zoom call. It's better than a ton of emails and a bunch of back and forth, but it's still not a 5-minute process.
So, but what about on the CRO side, as far as like
there's nothing you even have to pay to do it. You don't even have to have Veeva technology to access it.
So it's free. So you all are not even charging an extra fee for this module?
No, nothing. And it's free for sites to use.
Okay. I'm just trying
what we're charging for is the connections. So like if you just want to access site technology and you have Veeva technology today, you got to give the site your email.
Yeah.
They put your email in their system and we find you right away. So it needs to be whatever email is linked to your Veeva account right now. And they add you in and you get access. It's view only. And you can see at the study level, any regulatory documents they have, source documents that they have. You can stage them through a review. You get dashboards to see what you looked at. You can comment and pinpoint phrases on the documents. You can see the amount of reviews you're doing across your sites and studies. If you want to show your own volume of work back to your employer, which is pretty cool. You can see documents that have got adverse events on them, protocol deviations. It's quite honestly pretty cool. I'm a little biased because it was one of my baby projects from being at Veeva last year with COVID. But we're not getting pushback from CROs with using it. They're loving it.
Okay. I mean, I was just wondering because the former CRO that I worked with, they were trying to, implement it. And it just took a long time for it to get I don't know. It's still not implemented. But
there's nothing to implement besides changing your policies, relooking at your monitoring plans and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Because
but if you've moved towards remote monitoring,
on the site side monitoring, and it was amazing. But I know that they have to upload all those documents in there and keep it current. And they had a specific FTE. That's all that they did was maintain those, those files, and they did a QC on it. So.
And I think just to share quickly our vision, the right way to solve this is to make the source electronic at the site. That's really the right way to solve it, is get rid of the dang paper. And so that is something that we have committed to do and done a press release on. And we will build, I don't know if you saw that when I showed the Sightvault My Veeva features that will be connected. We are going to build sites eSource. That will get rid of this problem for them. Great question.
Hey, Bree, this is Nicole. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, thank you so much for that presentation. Absolutely amazing. I will be honest, I'm a senior clinical manager. And so one of my studies actually uses Veeva. And I'll be honest, I was dreading it because I was so used to using our own internal ETMF system. And I was just like, I don't want to use this. I don't know. I was like a kid, like kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
But once I
actually,
and right. So, but once I actually, I had to end up following behind some CRAs who weren't loading their documents accordingly. I had to actually learn the system myself. And I must say, it is so easy. And it's so easy to the point where I get on my CRAs because I'm like, if I can download like 50 documents in 5 minutes, you as a CRA, why can't you do your job? You know, but I say all that to say it's very easy system. But I did want to know absolutely. I did want to know that for the CROs that you do deal with or that has purchased like your ETMF system, do you try to upsell them on these other features and or do you do? So if they don't, I guess, get it, it's just because they don't want to.
Yes, we have a very dedicated sales team, and their primary targets are groups that only have our trial master file because they know that they could get so much more value if they would use some of our other applications. So yes.
Yeah.
And you can reach out to me directly, or I don't want to give more work to Danielle because I know she's already doing 50 million jobs right now. But if you want to know specifically about something going on with your company and I'm able to share some general things back to you, I would be happy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that.
Like, yes, I do know that there's been some activity with some people that might have these titles in your organization with these applications.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm one of those people who is always making suggestions because again, the seat that I the seat that I sit in, again, you know, I am again the senior clinical manager. So it's like I have to be in the IRT system for this. I have to be an EDC system for this. I have to be an ETMF for here. Like you said, it's just if you can have one collective system to log into, it would just make my world so easy. Right. You know, So I don't know why it's foolproof.
Yeah. And I think, well, one quick thing I could say to that is I think as an industry, we're in a place where we have to value connection over customization. And I think we've, as an industry, because I totally did this when I was at Vanderbilt, we valued, we're so different. And we would customize things to the nines. And we were constantly shifting things and breaking the way our own internal applications work together. And I think as an industry, we need to start to value the fact that if we can, in many ways, standardize a little bit more the way that we are working to execute these studies, technology companies like Veeva are going to have such a better chance to speed all this up and automate it and streamline it. And so even as a company at Veeva, we have sold technology to probably most of you guys here, if you're working on our applications, through how configurable our platform is. You want to do this? Sure, you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this. And then you do it all, and then you're constantly changing it all the time. And then you want to try to make connections, and it's really hard. So I actually think as an industry, we need to start wrapping our minds around connection and how to come together and work better together so that we can optimize trials and the way that they're run. And I don't really know that we have that mindset right now.
So work smarter, not harder, for the most part. So I know we have a couple of questions. I'm going to probably have Bree answer a couple of them. And Bree already said that feel free to reach out to her. I know we're running over.
My email.
Okay, I know we're running over a little bit on time, so I just wanted, there was one question that I wanted to ask. Let me see where to go. Okay, so forgive me if I say your name wrong. Oposi said, how would Veeva handle a situation where a sponsor has already started a trial and would like to include some of the new models?
Well, especially if it's more of the clinical operating applications and not data, that's not that hard. And we do that all the time, where almost every customer we're implementing already has something in flight. And we have a whole services team that can take that on and make those migrations from whatever applications you're using now, or even in shared drives that you're using now, and get that into our technology. So certainly something that we have a lot of experience with, and we would scope it out, and we would need to understand, how are you operating today? What's the state of your data and your files? How much are we talking about? We would price that out and then help you not only implement, trials that are fresh and new, but whatever else you wanted to migrate in, we would scope all of that out.
And they had a third part. How long would that integration take?
It depends. It depends. So we have done migrations of millions of documents. If those millions of documents are all standardized and coming from, one or two places, it's pretty quick, actually. We can do that in a matter of days. But if you are working across all types of disjointed applications and all your documents are saved in different ways, and we can't pull out the metadata, like we don't know, well, what kind of document is this? It really depends on the current state of what things look like today.
Okay.
Good question.
Thank you so much, Bree. I feel like you have simplified, like Veeva has simplified everyone's life that's on the site side, the CRO side. I know that a lot of people can relate to all of the documents and all of the correspondence that they have within the clinical research industry and just the whole back and forth. So I know that this information was very useful. And so Bree said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to her.
Yes.
And
I may get back to you guys towards the end of next week, because here's my shameless plea for, if you're a site, we have a free sites forum next week. We're going to go into detail about what we're doing with sites. So feel free to sign up and attend this, but yes, please reach out to me directly. And I'd be happy to answer questions for you guys. You guys are champs for being, willing to log in tonight, and listen to a vendor give you a presentation. So I appreciate you guys being open-minded.
Well, it's absolutely, I know for me, I see Veeva Vault all the time at work, and you use it all the time, but a lot of times you don't really hear the background and, all of the different systems that you have. So I know that this has definitely been super helpful, and just want to say thank you so much, Bree. We're going to have to do this again.
Well, we're building another application right now that you guys might see soon, called clinicaltrials.veeva. And it's like a LinkedIn for clinical trials. Danielle, I think you've given some feedback on that. So maybe as we get a little further down the road with that, that's something I could come and share about and keep you guys up to date on kind of the latest and greatest, if that makes sense and is something that you guys would want to see.
And one last thing, Bree, are there any opportunities for anyone as far as career opportunities for Veeva Vault? And if there are are you guys looking for certain people for Veeva?
Such a great question. Yeah. Yes, there's tons of opportunities. We certainly have job postings on our website. We are very committed to diversity at Veeva. I'm part of the Veeva Black community that we have. We're really trying to get, set measurable goals about having more amazing Black employees at Veeva. So that's something that's certainly top of mind, all the way up to our CEO. And we hire people with ClinOps experience pretty consistently. And if you work in technology today and you like it and you would want to be like a consultant to help people implement technology, similar technology to what you've used now, and help them sort of with the business process changes involved in that and how to actually implement and get on board, many of you would probably have a great background for a role like that. So again, too, if you're interested in working at Veeva and you want to reach out to me, feel free to do that. And I can kind of do some matching with your experience and your interests and how that might fit in at a place like Veeva or just a technology company in general.
Sounds like I need to reach out to you to help you guys reach your goal with diversity, since you have a ERG that's dealing with diversity. So yes, we definitely have to talk about that, because I know we have so many different people that probably haven't even considered, Veeva as a career, but because we use, the eTMF all the time, that would probably be perfect for knowing the system.
It would be perfect. to come in and be a consultant for us at Veeva and help other groups implement.
Oh, sounds good. All right. Thank you so much, Bree. If you feel free to drop your LinkedIn URL in the chat. That way that people can connect with you.
Sure.
Because I know a lot of times we have different names. Our name that's, our name that we have when we're using Zoom might not be the same name that we have on LinkedIn. So definitely feel free. Bree had already included her email address also, but she just dropped her LinkedIn information.
Drop that in. And then if you're a site and you are interested in signing up for that site forum, I'll just drop that link in. We would love to have you. And we're going to give a lot more detail into what we're doing for sites next week on Tuesday for that.
All right. Thank you so much, Bree. You have a great night.
Thank you all so much for your time. Looking forward to next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.